Imagine a world where life was darker, stranger, and far more brutal than any history book ever told you. Welcome to the Middle Ages, but not the fairy tale version, the secrets they never taught in school. Did you know that kings often drank from human skulls as symbols of power, or that entire villages disappeared overnight, erased by famine, disease, or something far more sinister? While you think knights were noble heroes, the truth is they were often merciless killers, bound by codes that protected themselves, not the people they claimed to serve. And those towering castles? They weren't just majestic. They were prisons, traps, and death machines disguised as fortresses. The common folk lived in fear of not just rulers but neighbors who could betray them for a loaf of bread, a piece of land, or simply survival. And religion, which you might imagine as comforting, often masked horrors, rituals, punishments, and secrets that could make even the bravest shiver. But here's the twist. Some of these medieval horrors shape the modern world in ways you'd never guess, from the architecture we admire to the laws we follow, even to the medicine that saves lives today. Imagine learning that the Black Plague, which killed millions, also gave birth to some of the greatest innovations in public health, because humans were forced to survive, adapt, and evolve. Every corner of this world hides a story so bizarre, so shocking, you'll question everything you thought you knew. And just when you think you've seen it all, there's one secret, hidden in the most unassuming of places, that flips the Middle Ages upside down and makes you realize history wasn't just written by the victors, it was carefully hidden from you. So before you scroll away, ask yourself, are you ready to see the Middle Ages the way no one dared to tell you? The dark truths that hide behind every castle wall, every monastery, and every bloody battlefield. Because what comes next will haunt your imagination and change the way you see the past forever. You think the Middle Ages were just swords, castles, and peasants. Think again. Behind the stone walls, behind the royal banquets, lies a world of secrets, betrayals, and survival tactics that will shock you. Imagine a peasant family hiding in a cellar for days while knights above them drank wine and planned conquests. What would you do if your life depended on silence? But here's something even stranger. Not all knights fought for glory. Many were mercenaries, killers for hire, and some even betrayed their own kings for gold secrets or survival, and the kings themselves. Oh, they were masters of manipulation. They poisoned rivals, staged fake deaths, and used fear as a weapon stronger than any sword. Religion, which today seems peaceful, was often a tool for control. Monks weren't just praying, they kept secrets, recorded hidden knowledge, and sometimes destroyed anything that threatened the power of the church. And the castles? You think of them as fortresses, but inside were trapdoors, secret tunnels, and hidden chambers where people vanished forever. Peasants and nobles alike feared them, not just for battles, but for the unknown horrors inside. Famine was another secret killer. Some years, entire villages starved while kings feasted. People resorted to unimaginable measures, eating animals nobody thought edible, or even each other in desperation. But here's the twist. This suffering wasn't always random. Lords sometimes hoarded food intentionally to weaken rebellious peasants, proving that the game of survival was as much political as it was environmental. And disease, don't get me started. The Black Plague wasn't just a random epidemic, it moved through trade, ships, and even deliberate sabotage. There are stories of merchants spreading infection to wipe out rivals. And the symptoms? Horrifying. Buboes, bleeding, coughing blood, death within days. Imagine living in that reality, where even the air you breathed could be a killer. But humanity adapted in strange ways. Some villages developed secret quarantine methods, isolated the sick, and created primitive hospitals. Techniques that laid the foundation for modern medicine. Then there's the hidden science of the Middle Ages. Alchemy wasn't just a myth about turning lead into gold, it was the early groundwork for chemistry and medicine. Some formulas were so secretive they were coded in cryptic symbols, passed from master to apprentice, and anyone revealing them could be executed. And magic, yes, magic, not stage tricks, but rituals, herbal knowledge, and ancient practices that could heal or kill. Women were both revered and feared for their knowledge, often accused of witchcraft if they healed too well or spoke too boldly. And the courts, the medieval courts, were brutal theatres of power. Trials weren't about justice, they were about spectacle, fear, and control. Torture was common, not to punish the guilty, but to send a message, and the punishments weren't always fair. Sometimes, a person could be accused just because they were unlucky, or their neighbor coveted their land. And let's talk about art. You think of medieval paintings as holy or decorative. Some were political propaganda. Others carried secret messages, hidden criticisms of kings or clergy, only readable by those who knew the codes. Even the architecture spoke in whispers. Symbols carved into stone, hidden statues, messages in gargoyles warning of sins, secrets, or even rebellions. And food. Oh, the food. Not all feasts were joyful. Some were survival challenges. People ate preserved meats that were months old, drank water that would make us sick today, and relied on spices so expensive that they were worth more than gold. And here's something that will make you rethink medieval science. Doctors often believed in astrology. Your fate, your illness, even your chance to survive depended on the stars. Some treatments sound absurd today, leeches, bloodletting, or chanting, but they were rooted in observations that occasionally worked, if only by chance. And let's not forget the children. Life expectancy was low, but children weren't pampered. They were trained early to work, fight, or serve the church, often facing dangers adults feared. And secrets didn't die with age. They were passed down carefully through whispered stories, hidden manuscripts, or symbols only the initiated understood. And here's a twist that will shock you. Some of the most advanced engineering of the time, like water wheels, bridges, and early machinery, was often invented by people hiding from authorities or working in secret. Forbidden because it challenged the power of kings or guilds. And medicine again. Some herbalists discovered cures that wouldn't be acknowledged for centuries. Knowledge almost lost because their work was considered witchcraft. And speaking of lost knowledge, entire libraries were destroyed, sometimes intentionally. Monks burned manuscripts, invaders looted scrolls, and secrets vanished into smoke. Think of it, centuries of wisdom lost because it threatened someone's control. And the ultimate secret? Even the wars we read about weren't just about land or power. They were about controlling knowledge, manipulating people, and ensuring survival for the clever few while on suffered. But here's the payoff. If you understand these hidden truths, you see the Middle Ages not as a primitive or dark age, but as a complex world where human ingenuity, fear, cruelty, and survival instincts collided. And the final shocker? Some of our modern systems, law, medicine, education, even finance, are direct descendants of these hidden medieval secrets. They were shaped by the horrors, the ingenuity, and the survival of people who had no choice but to hide, adapt, or die. So the next time you think of the Middle Ages as distant and irrelevant, remember, every castle, every plague, every secret buried in the stones has a story that whispers into our world today. And knowing it changes the way you see history forever. And the stories don't end there. The Middle Ages were a maze of hidden lives and forbidden knowledge, and every shadow had a secret. Take the monks, for instance. People think they only prayed, but some were scholars, scientists, and spies at the same time, recording information about the world, experimenting with medicines, and sometimes hiding scrolls that could topple kings if discovered. And the nuns? Don't assume they were powerless. Some ran secret schools, tended to the sick in ways no one else dared, and even influenced political decisions from behind cloister walls. And love, oh, love was dangerous. Forbidden romances could end in death, and secret letters hidden in walls or carved into trees carried messages that risked execution if found. Imagine a world where expressing affection could literally cost your life. And then there were the punishments, cruel beyond imagination. People were exposed, branded, or stretched on racks for crimes that today seem trivial, while witnesses watched in terror, knowing the next victim could be them. And espionage wasn't just for nobles. Even peasants and merchants played the game. Informers, spies, and secret networks thrived because information was more powerful than armies. And the markets, hidden bazaars existed for items you'd never imagine, forbidden books, herbs for magic, rare spices worth fortunes, and weapons that kings would kill to control. And smuggling? Entire communities depended on secret trade routes that avoided taxes or royal oversight, with people risking death for a loaf of bread, a vial of medicine, or even just freedom. And here's the twist. Some of these hidden trades led to innovations we take for granted today. Navigation, banking, and trade laws all trace back to survival and secrecy. And the plagues weren't just killers, they reshaped society. The Black Death created opportunities for peasants to demand better wages, for doctors to test new treatments, and for secret societies to emerge, protecting knowledge that was about to vanish forever. And speaking of vanishing knowledge, many inventions were lost deliberately. Some rulers feared progress because it threatened control. Others destroyed books out of superstition. imagine centuries of human wisdom disappearing overnight because someone thought it was dangerous. And art, hidden meanings lurked in paintings, tapestries, and sculptures. Allegories, secret symbols, even warnings of political uprisings were concealed in the most beautiful works, waiting for eyes smart enough to read them. And the common folk, don't assume they were powerless. They had their own codes, their own secret knowledge about survival, herbs, hidden passages, and tactics to avoid famine or taxation. And the roads themselves tell secrets. Ancient paths, hidden trails, and abandoned villages mark stories of battles, migrations, and disappearances. And some secrets were downright horrifying: ritual killings, hidden prisons, and chained prisoners in forgotten dungeons. These were not myths. They were real, and their echoes can still be found in castles and ruins today. And the final mind-blowing twist: some medieval secrets were so well hidden that they became the foundations of modern technology, law, and governance. The very systems we trust, the science we study, even some social rules we follow, all shaped by hidden medieval minds, working in fear, secrecy, and brilliance. And yet, most people never hear these stories. You think the Middle Ages were backward, but in truth, they were complex, alive, terrifying, and brilliant all at once. Every castle, every monastery, every shadowed alley has a story waiting to rewrite your understanding of history. And the ultimate reveal, the secret that connects all of S, is that survival, power, and knowledge were currency long before money, and those who mastered these secrets shaped the world we live in today. So when you walk past a ruined castle, an old monastery, or even a dusty history book, remember, the Middle Ages were never as simple as they seem. The darkness you imagine hid brilliance, cruelty, ingenuity, and secrets that still echo in our lives. And the most important secret, it's that history is never fully taught. What you don't know can change everything you thought you knew about power, survival, and humanity itself. So ask yourself, are you ready to see the Middle Ages the way no one dared reveal? Because once you know these secrets, nothing will ever look the same again. But the story doesn't stop there. The Middle Ages were riddled with secret rebellions, plots, and assassinations that never made it into the history books, because power was controlled by those who wrote the records, and the truth often disappeared with the dead. Imagine villages quietly rising against corrupt lords, only to vanish when spies betrayed them, neighbors reporting neighbors for a favor or a slice of bread, and entire communities wiped out because someone whispered the wrong secret. And the assassinations, these weren't dramatic movies. They were real, brutal, and precise, often carried out in the shadows by people trained from childhood to kill or vanish without a trace, because politics and survival were inseparable. Royalty hid their sins behind golden gates and grand feasts, but behind closed doors, scandals thrived: secret children, poisoned rivals, marriages arranged for alliances rather than love, and betrayals that changed the course of kingdoms. And the knowledge they hoarded, oh, it was priceless. Some kings and nobles collected rare manuscripts, maps, medical texts, and scientific observations not for curiosity, but for control, because knowledge was more dangerous than armies. And the church, don't assume it was above all this intrigue. Monasteries and cathedrals were both sanctuaries and vaults, guarding secrets so powerful that revealing them could mean death. And spies, oh yes, entire networks of spies thrived, gathering information on enemies, even friends, and passing coded messages hidden in letters, paintings, or carvings. Some spies were children, unnoticed in the streets, delivering secrets that could topple governments, and their identities were buried with them. And here's the twist: some of these espionage tactics laid the groundwork for modern intelligence agencies. Without these hidden medieval spies, our modern systems of communication, surveillance, and security might look very different today. And medicine again, hidden. Alchemists and herbalists were often hunted as witches, yet they discovered remedies that would save lives centuries later. From antiseptics to herbal compounds that modern science still studies. And food, survival, and trade were all tied to secrets. Who controlled the spice? Roots controlled wealth. Who controlled water? And grain controlled life. And peasants learned to hide stores, sneak goods, and barter in ways that seemed invisible to authorities. And art, literature, and symbols were secret codes. Tapestries told stories of rebellion. Carvings on churches warned of sins, and hidden inscriptions in manuscripts were instructions for survival or messages of resistance. And the battles you think you know, The Hundred Years' War, the Crusades, even local skirmishes, were often covers for espionage, sabotage, or secret alliances. Entire campaigns were fought not for glory, but to control knowledge, territory, and loyalty. And the punishments for failure? Often public, cruel, and designed to terrify an entire community into obedience. Hanging, quartering, impalement. Every act was theatre, every act a lesson in fear and compliance. But here's the twist. These horrors also bred ingenuity. People created escape routes, secret codes, hidden societies, and underground schools, passing on knowledge from generation to generation, often at great personal risk. And the technology hidden in plain sight, windmills, waterworks, bridges, early clocks, even mechanical automata, was often secret because rulers feared change or thought it unnatural. Entire inventions vanished because they threatened established power. And the final shocking connection, the very survival strategies, the secret knowledge, the coded messages, the hidden libraries, and the rebellions of... The Middle Ages are not just relics, they are ancestors of the systems, laws, and innovations we take for granted today. Medicine, engineering, intelligence, law, education, even finance, all of it carries echoes of hidden medieval secrets. The ingenuity of people who survived, adapted, and hid truths from those in power. And the ultimate revelation, the most powerful secret of all, is that history is never truly what it seems. The stories you've been told are curated, sanitized, and incomplete. The real Middle Ages were a maze of survival, power, cruelty, ingenuity, and hidden knowledge, and the people who mastered the secrets shaped the very world we live in today. So every ruined castle, every crumbling manuscript, every shadowed alleyway whispers stories the victors tried to erase, secrets that once held life and death in the balance. And the more you uncover, the more you realize that understanding these secrets doesn't just teach history, it changes the way you see power, knowledge, and humanity itself. And as you absorb this, ask yourself, if people centuries ago could survive, manipulate, and innovate under unimaginable conditions, hiding truths that shape the future, what else might we be blind to today? Because the Middle Ages never really ended. They live in every law, every structure, and every idea we take for granted. And only by knowing the hidden truths can we understand how the past continues to rule the present.